Nigeria's 2027 general elections are shaping up amid rising public interest and growing political tensions. The ruling All Progressives Congress APC has endorsed President Bola Tinubu for a second term, while opposition parties seek unity and a stronger grassroots organization to challenge his bid. A recent survey found that about 77% of Nigerians intend to vote in 2027, driven by concerns about insecurity, economic hardship, and leadership quality. Though fear of violence remains a major barrier to turnout. Early voter registration shows strong engagement in some states, and more than 150 new political parties have indicated interest in participating. At the same time, opposition figures warn that the All Progressives Congress is creating a narrative of inevitability, while critics argue weak opposition strategy could blunt the rivals' edge. Overall, the 2027 polls are seen as a significant test of Nigeria's democratic resilience, with widespread participation, electoral integrity, and security likely to shape outcomes more than partisan loyalty. Well then.
Well, we're being joined live for this conversation. Is Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, the spokesperson for the African Democratic Congress and also a former sports minister. You say the APC is manufacturing false 2027 narrative, and you say you accuse the president of shrinking the democratic space. Would you want to prove that with some empirical evidence?
I mean, of course, I mean, thank you very much and good morning. For us, it's clear what the ruling party, the APC, has tried to do in the last couple of months. The strategy, I think, on the back of the economic policies that they have introduced, which have dragged more Nigerians into poverty than ever before in our history, they realized that if there is a real competition for power in 2027, there's no way they are going to win. So the strategy they've pursued, which is ill-advised in our reckoning, is to destabilize all opposition parties and ensure by the time we get to the polls in 2027, there will be no real options for Nigerians, and they can only surrender and go on with the status quo. And that was what led to the creation of the coalition in July of last year, because the other political parties, the Labour Party, the PDP, and all that, have been rendered untenable, as it were, for any kind of political engagement. So for us, it is very clear what they are doing, and they have not. It's not as if they've stopped doing what they are doing. Even now, the ADC is still confronted with many legal challenges, people going to court here to challenge the legitimacy of the leadership of the party. Is all part of the machinations of the ruling party. And we've all had the revelations recently by the governor of Oyo State of how some individuals within even the opposition PDP had promised the president to help him to neutralize PDP. Now, it is clear to us that, and to all Nigerians, that the only option left as an opposition is this coalition of ADC. So for us, we are delighted that we took the decision that we took at the time to build this coalition, and we are still building it. And we believe that by the time we arrive at 2027, it's going to be the ruling party versus the ADC coalition, of course, which stands on the side of Nigerian people.
Now, do you think that ADC can realistically challenge power without a sitting governor or any major bloc behind it?
No, I mean, when you say major bloc, I don't know what you mean. If you mean the Nigerian people, of course, we are confident Nigerian people are with us, because the message that we will like to communicate is a reality of everyday Nigerian. The hunger, the insecurity. I was listening to you before you invited me on, and the introduction that you gave. It's clear that if 77% of Nigerians are going to vote, indicate that they will vote in 2027 because of issues of insecurity, because of issues of hunger, and because of the hardship, the prevailing hardship, they are definitely not going to vote for the continuity of this. They are going to vote against it. And that's where ADC draws its strength. And talking about governors, you see, sometimes the political influence of governors are overrated. We've seen governors who, after spending 8 years in power, come back to contest the election for Senate in their states and lose those elections. And if you recall the 2023 election, the Governor Okowa was the sitting governor in Delta and was running mate to Alhaji Atiku Abubakar at the time. But they still lost Delta State. Edo was an APC state, and they still lost. APC lost Edo State. Lagos State, as a matter of fact, where the current president came from, Peter Obi won Lagos State. So sometimes we overrate, and that's why we say this mass defection of governors to APC is, among other things, orchestrated to create that sense of fait accompli, so that Nigerians will say, okay, it's over, everybody is now in APC. No, it's not everybody that is in APC. The governors can be decamping to APC, but the people are not decamping with them. And that's what you will see as we approach 2027.
Now, I am curious to know, the ADC seems to be, a haven for hitherto dissatisfied members of the People's Democratic Party and the APC and even the Labour Party coming together. So apparently these are people who actually have a grouse or a grudge against their parent political parties coming together to form a coalition. So that appears to be, the binding factor. But then, as happened with the APC, what they call them was strange bedfellows. You have the same thing again playing out in the ADC. So going forward, do you think the ADC can actually hold it together when what brought them together in the first place was not a unifying factor but a divisive factor?
Well, I think the framework of your analysis is not exactly correct. I mean, when you say ADC comes together because of their grievance against their ruling party, because of their legacy parties, as a matter of fact, is the destabilization of these various political parties that have led in most of the leaders in the ADC out of their parties. And if those parties were still stable or were tenable as a viable political platform, they'll probably not leave. So one of the things that the APC, you see, sometimes we overrate these people, I'm sorry to say that, because what they would have done was to allow all these various political parties to survive, so that by the time we arrive at 2027, they have many people running all over the place. But by destroying all these political parties, they managed to herd everyone else into one single block against themselves. And that's what they have done now. Now, secondly, talking about strange bedfellows. Political parties are always made of strange bedfellows. I mean, let's take PDP, perhaps the biggest and most successful political parties in our democratic history. When they started in 1998, 1999, there were people who regarded themselves as progressive politicians, people like Abdullahi and the rest of them. And there are people who were, as a matter of fact, referred to as Abacha politicians. But at the end of the day, what the founding fathers of that party did was to say, look, let's build a party like the Noah's Ark, that will contain all kind of animals, the snakes, the sheep, the lamb, the parrot, the chicken, and everything, so that there will be nobody outside that will be begging the military to come and take power. Let's bring everybody into the house.
Amazing.
So you find all kind of people in the party. And that's one of the reasons that PDP survived for so long. There will be internal issues, there will be tension, but the strength of the political party is the ability to withstand these internal tensions and contestations.
Yes,
and that's
but
why
it's
we're trying
easy
to
talk the talk. Can the ADC actually walk the walk? What will ADC do differently, say, in its first 100 days, if in power?
I mean, I cannot begin to tell you that because that would be my personal opinion. I mean, but what is most important for us as ADC, we know what has brought us here, which is to end the suffering of the Nigerian people. The government of APC has had its knees firmly planted on the neck of Nigerians for so long. And there is a limit, there's a point you get to and you say, enough is enough. I mean, I go home, you go home, and we know the suffering in this country. It is almost unprecedented. They tell us that it's inevitable, it's a result of the policies they have introduced to reform the economy, and we are going to enjoy here thereafter. But this is the third year, and there's no government in the world. And instead of letting off to say, look, let's give the people some respite, what have they done? Actually compounded the mystery by adding these forged tax laws on Nigerians. So for us, it's not a question of, it is very clear where ADC stands. How do we relieve the suffering of the people? Now, by the way, do you remember that we are still supposed to be in a state of emergency? It's a joke. Security emergency. Yeah, it's a joke. Can you see anything that indicates that this country in a state of security emergency?
Okay, we'll come back to the issue of insecurity. But I just want to put the issues into proper perspective. The ADC is accusing the APC-led government of weaponizing poverty and shrinking democratic space. But when we look at the economic reality, the economic statistics, all the governors confess that now in terms of efficiency in spending, there is increased allocation at state subnational levels now. And we have a president that is also championing local government autonomy. So, and the governors, by their own volition, that's defecting to the All People's Congress, the APC. So, how does this correlate to the allegation coming from the ADC that it's impoverishing the people and weaponizing poverty, shrinking democratic space, when it is by their own free volition? And we've seen empirical evidence of the state governors claiming that they have increased allocation and they now have more money to spend.
Thank you very much, but more money to spend on what? To spend on what?
Would you blame the president for not having, for the governors not having the political will to turn that fiscal windfall into substantial economic growth at the subnational level?
There is a gang up against the Nigerian people, and that's what you are seeing.
Okay.
It's a gang up against the Nigerian people. They said they've received more money than ever before, but has that improved the quality of life of an average person in these states? What you see play out, these governors joining, it is the expression of their vulnerability. They know. They are not doing it out of conviction. They are doing it because...
No, I just want to get the perspective of weaponizing poverty, and at the same time, governors are saying that there are now more money to spend.
Yeah, but that's the question I asked you. More money to spend on what? Are people still hungry or not? Now, children will start resuming school, and I'm telling you that it is reality that many parents, majority of parents down in our villages, in our towns and cities, don't even know how they are going to pay the school fees of their children. You know, many are now resorting to taking children. In other countries, when you say you are giving children homeschooling, it's because they are elite children. Now Nigerians are reverting to homeschooling, hiring lesson teachers for their children because they cannot pay school fees. In a country that since 2000, we have declared basic education as free, compulsory, universal. But parents are paying more for basic education today than at any other time in our history. And they are saying they are receiving more money than ever before. Doing what with this money? Funding their lifestyle, funding their politics, leaving the people behind and joining the ruling party where they will enjoy together. So all these things about, all this ridiculous talk about the economy getting better, but the people know the evidence is in their stomach. The people know they are hungry. Do you know how much they sell fertilizers now? Farmers cannot even farm anymore. They import rice because they felt that they could feel the tension. They imported rice and killed local farmers, and they claim the economy is getting better. They keep counting numbers to us, telling us statistics. You know, so all these are just you know, that's why we are confident that we know the responsibility we have undertaken as an opposition political party, that we have a duty to stop this drift And that's what we are going to do.
All right. And then it brings us to the issue of internal democracy within the ADC itself. It's in the papers today, and we probably should have touched on that to the one of the presidential hopefuls, former presidential candidate in the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, insisting he was not going to step down for anyone. His rhetoric actually sounded a bit combative. You also have a former presidential candidate in the Labour Party in the person of Peter Obi also throwing his hat into the ring. And these are some very heavyweight personalities. So the question on the minds of most Nigerians would be that when you have these kinds of conflicting sentiments, and of course these are the two emergent figures anyway, I'm very sure there'll be more to come. The likes of former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, also probably eyeing the top position. So it's the question of internal democracy within the ADC. How are you going to manage some very heavyweight personalities, you know, with very firm and strong presidential ambitions?
Well, I mean, for us, we're not bothered about this. You know that thing that you see when boxers come out or wrestlers and they snare at each other, they look at each other and stare at each other and flex muscles. I mean, that's what is going on. These are political gladiators. So it's within their right to say what they are saying. I'm not going to step down. I'm going to contest. By all means, fine. But we as a political party are saying, by all means, we're not asking anybody to step down. I mean, we are insisting on one thing. And what I can assure you, that under the leadership of our national chairman, David Mark, we are going to ensure that the process of determining who will be the flag bearer of the party is credible, is transparent, and it is fair to everyone concerned. We've been saying that consistently from day one. So we're not going to ask anybody, oh, don't contest. Of course, the best case scenario for any political party is to be able to engineer consensus, to say, okay, so that you don't go through bruising primaries. But if we're not able to do that, of course, the most important thing we need to guarantee for us to move forward confidently is to have a transparent and primaries that everyone will see as clearly credible and be able to accept the outcome of the. We are not worried about all this. All this rhetoric, supporters saying, oh, it's either us or nobody else. It's fine. That's why political parties exist.
Now, earlier, you mentioned a very interesting comment that caught my attention, and we said we would come back to that point. In a previous interview, you've said the government is, quote, making deals with abductors. Are you accusing the state of negotiating with criminals? Because you had spoken about the level of security and insecurity that is currently grappling the nation at the moment.
You see, thank you very much. You see, it's a very tricky situation, because for a parent whose child or a husband or a wife whose relation is abducted, it doesn't matter how you get them out. The most important thing for them is get them out. Now, as a government, you have a different consideration. You want to get the people out. You want to protect them, but you also have to think of the long-term implication of what you are doing. Because government doing what government did at that time appeared to us like government was desperate to have a solution. You remember they told us that, oh, the president personally directed the rescue. The president personally directed the rescue of the abducted people. But we didn't see anything directing anything. It's just these people who claim, and the bandits have made videos telling everyone that cared to listen that they took money to release the people that they abducted. It's not us making allegations. They said they were paid to release those victims. And that's why you see what happened in my state, Kwara State, after going to the church in Eruku. They got those people out, and they told us that, oh, they were able to get them out because they told them firmly, if you don't return those people, we are coming after you. Then they quickly handed it to them. I mean, they probably think that we are stupid, right? And that that Nigerians can't see what's going on. And to put a lie to what they are doing, a few days later, another set of bandits went to abduct people. And that's why we said the strategy is not sustainable. Yes, you want to get people out, but you can't be paying bandits, because when you do that, they will use the same resources to strengthen themselves.
Okay.
And that's the point we are making.
Unfortunately, Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, it's such a very engaging conversation. We wish we could go on and on, but we're pressed for time. Thank you very much for joining us live indeed on some very important issues, very crucial issues indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bolaji Abdullahi, the ADC spokesperson and former sports minister in Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed. And that's all we have time for here on Daybreak. I'm Benga Ashiru. It's goodbye from me.
And I'm Charles Eruka. Thanks so much for joining us on Daybreak today.
And I'm Yolanda Robert. Please do keep it here on Arise News. The morning show is next. Goodbye.